You're listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex Gee, a podcast that invites you to experience the world through the perspective of one black man, one conversation, one story, or even one rant at a time. Here's Dr. Gee.
All right, if you can tell I'm laughing, it is because I have not been in the studio in a while. I took a little time off just to plan for the upcoming season, and I had to actually ask, what's the order? Do I say my name first? Do I sing the theme song? Black Like Me. Do I sing that, or is that live? And then what makes matters even worse, I'm in here with two of the goofiest people I know, my daughter, Lexi Gee, and my niece, Alexandra Gee Lewis, and they are gigglers. In fact, I had trouble even spanking them as kids, like the half time I tried to do that, because they would start giggling and make me realize they didn't know what I was doing. And so that's how they disarmed me. Whenever they didn't want to get in trouble, they would just start laughing and giggling. So they're doing that today. So I'm going to try to hold it together. But I'm so glad to have you young ladies in the studio today. We're going to have some fun, aren't we?
Definitely.
You know it.
All right. And so Lexi, you're from Madison, and you UW student. You're in the process of applying for graduate school, and you studied creative writing and Italian at Wisconsin, and you're looking at a graduate program in perhaps creative writing or library science. And Alexandra, you're an emerging actress. You've been in school and taking classes. You got some pretty impressive instructors too. One of your instructors and mentors plays Veronica on The Haves and the Have-Nots, and the other Scott plays on season 4 and 5 of House of Cards. And so you got some impressive people in your background. Do they think you can act?
We're gonna find out.
No, they do. They have told me good things about you all. So you all know the routine. I've talked to you about the show. I want to, I do icebreakers even with the young people, just to kind of help us get into the, to the rhythm of things. And so I've got a couple of things that I call black icebreakers. Are you young black ladies ready for these questions?
Well, yes.
All right. I'll just use one of the standard ones just to break the ice. Alexandra, grits or oatmeal?
Ooh. Oatmeal.
Are you serious?
I eat it more often.
My sister did not
never
raise you
felt
right.
more
Really?
I love grits, but if you had asked me like 10
goodness.
years ago, I probably would have said
Cut
grits.
to commercial. Oh my gosh, we shouldn't have raised you.
I feel like I don't even know you.
I love them both.
We should have taken you back to Detroit. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, how do you blacken your oatmeal up? Tell me you put pepper on it or something, or scrambled eggs or anything.
Pepper?
Oh my
Butter,
goodness.
sugar, cinnamon.
No, okay. You eat more oatmeal than grits because
I eat
you
it more
can.
frequently.
Okay, I
Exactly.
got you. And Lexi, what would you say, grits or oatmeal?
Grits, but I'm very troubled that you just asked her if she puts pepper in her oatmeal.
I was just trying to get her just to make it kind of interesting. Okay. I want you to use this phrase in a sentence. Oh no, she didn't.
Like you want us to do it like in a dialogue?
Yeah, I want you just to use that in a sentence. Oh no, she didn't. So.
Oh no, she didn't just swipe her little crusty hands through my hair.
That's a mood.
And you all stay close to the mic, you all. Stay close. No, that's good. No, say that again. Say that again. I want to make sure we got that.
I said, oh no, she didn't just swipe her little crusty hands through my hair.
Oh my goodness.
That was perfect.
Okay, Lexi,
Honestly,
do you have a?
I don't even think I could top that.
Oh no, she didn't
That
just
is-
wipe
that
her
is-
crusty
honestly, I
hands
felt
through
that.
my hair.
That was like that was an
I had to
experience
make
for
it
me.
dramatic.
That sent
All
me
right.
somewhere.
Okay, all right. So do you all know what the phrase means? I'm going to get my butter whipped. Did they use that in your generation?
Got a couple ideas of what it can mean.
Okay.
I don't know. Please
Okay.
enlighten
Well,
us.
Allie, where you went out there to Miss T's place to get your butter whipped. That's what. So
To get your hair did.
to get your hair did. So you got to make sure we hand those things down to your young generation. Y'all got to sit around
real,
old
before they
folks
get
and know how to
lost.
do it before it gets lost. Okay, I'm about to embarrass myself because y'all might not know what this means. Can you use this phrase in a sentence? Fintu. Can you use fintu?
Like you finna do something?
Yeah. Can you use that in a sentence?
Like I'm finna go to the store?
Allie, you ever use that growing up?
Yeah.
What does fintu mean? Do y'all even know what it means? I know you know how to use, but do you know what it means?
Going to?
It means
Oh,
I'm
to?
fix. It means I'm fixing
yeah,
to.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because old folks would just not just say, I'm going to go do something. They say, I'm fixing to go down to the store. I'm fixing to go for a walk. So they say, I'm finna go for a walk. So you all hear us say finna.
You don't even know the real originator.
It means
I've heard that, though,
I am fixing to do something. Oh, man, that is so funny. Do y'all know what a syllable spanking is?
Yes.
Didn't
I tell you?
Because they would get those syllables out.
Yeah.
Allie, you ever get a syllable spanking?
Probably.
Lexi, you ever get a syllable spanking?
No.
I know it a little too well.
Yeah.
I came right off with it. So.
Yeah. That would do. Okay, okay. Who's more ghetto, Nicki Minaj or Cardi B? This week.
Cardi.
Okay.
In unison.
Cardi, oh my goodness. I hope she, hey, if you all know Cardi, please tweet this show out at her. Did you all have barrettes in your hair? Did your parents give you cute little braids and put little barrettes in it?
We had that little box at grandma's house full of barrettes.
Full of barrettes?
Yeah.
You know what was really funny about that? Like when y'all would jump rope or walk, we always knew where you were because we could hear the barrettes.
Little remnants of barrettes on the floor.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this kind of ties into, I got just a couple more of you all. Just growing up as African American women, beautiful African American women in this community, how often growing up did you get hair questions? Like, can I touch it? Or why is it braided today? Why is it curly tomorrow? Did you get questions about hair, ranging from why do you do that to can I touch it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think more so as I was older though.
Really?
Or at least I don't really remember it as a kid. But I know in the last couple of years, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
I
You
mean,
too?
I have some memories of when I was little, but I also think it's been more common the older I get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, okay. I think that's enough. I think that's enough young black icebreakers. No, this is really good. I'm really glad to have you all on the show. So, we're talking about Dear White People, and we're going to do this in 2 parts, I think. So we're going to talk about seasons 1 through 7, because I've got a surprise. If it works out right, cross your fingers. I've got a surprise for part 2 for the last 2 episodes, because those are pretty heavy, and I want to make sure that we do that separate, and also tease out season 2. So can we just jump right into the show? I've been hearing this talk about Dear White People. I remember it being a movie, but I missed it, and when it came out as a series on Netflix, I guess somehow just went over my head. So I started watching it. It is nothing like what I thought. In fact, just by hearing the name, I thought white people wrote it for white people. It's deep. It's like a combination of John Singleton, because it's got drama like Boys in the Hood, but it's also like Spike Lee, because some of the stuff is in your face. I have to rewind it a couple times and say, okay, did that? Oh no, she didn't. Did they really say that? Did they really do that? Did they really bring that to the screen? And so, just before we get into some of the specifics, just general, can you relate to it? You all are young adults. Does it speak to your generation? Do you think the themes that they're touching upon are relevant and real?
Completely relevant.
Yeah, 100%. I would definitely say so.
Give me an example of something that's relevant, and it could be just a topic and not necessarily a scene particularly. And because this is Black Like Me, I'm going to pull out some of the cultural and some of the racial themes, of course. But I'm just curious, like what themes have stood out particularly for you?
I think the diversity of Blackness.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more, but talk to me some more about that.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of everything, I think the way they show hair and music and people's aspirations and their desires within just Blackness, not just the whole realm of diversity, but just within the Black community.
Yeah, I think as a young Black person, it took me a really long time to understand that Blackness exists on a spectrum. There's no one way. There's a whole range of ways to be Black, and I think that Dear White People shows that really well, and in a really complex way as well.
I think complex is right. And you can't say one group exudes leadership and the other group doesn't, because you see strong characters and strong leadership. And to me, that's important, because as an African American adult male in this community who's an influencer, I've been asked my entire professional life, who is the Black leader? Who are the Black leaders? There can only be 3 or 4. Or they want to know, why can't all of your groups just consolidate? Why can't all of these groups just come together? There's a Black caucus, a Black thought, and Black plan of action. So I like that too. What other themes struck you all as particularly interesting, or that you're surprised was brought to the screen? Were you surprised they addressed interracial dating?
I was going to say that. And just the questioning of her pro-Blackness due to her being with a white man.
Mm-hmm. Because it was called in. So the Sam character and her weak boyfriend Gabe.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because he's white. I'm saying that because he's weak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think it's interesting because so many people looked up to her before they knew that. And the second that came out, then that took away some of her power, some of her blackness due to that.
It's interesting.
And I think that's real in today, too. Like, that's not just a possibility that happens.
Sure. And do you think that it also brought up the discussion again about Sam being biracial?
Mm-hmm. And also light skin, because there's definitely the issue of the shades.
Sure.
Even on terms of Sam and Joel.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell me some more about that.
I think just on terms of like Reggie and his preference, not that it all had to do with that, but there is the discussion of the light skin, dark skin, which is a huge issue in the black community.
That's and honestly, I had hoped that would have gone away by your generation.
Yeah.
I had hoped that would go away. We need to just even do a whole, show on that, and that's where we can trace some of the roots back to slavery and plantation. But some of that stuff we got to break. Mm-hmm. We can't go and undo history. And we knew that people who were lighter skinned could work in the house and do things, but we got to break that and start start thinking that people are attractive because they're light skinned, and they do. I mean, they do some really touchy things, like talking about race, and actually have the friends discuss it. So it's not like it's not just implied behind someone's back. Right. It's not like well, she thinks she's this because she's light skinned, or she thinks she's down because she's chocolate. But they actually are having these conversations together, which is really interesting, and I think that's helping black folks to put that behind them.
Right.
All right, so we talked about the interracial dating part. We talked about just the different shades of African American folks in that spectrum. Lexi, anything else jump out at you before we get into some of the specific scenes that I wanted to talk about, or central themes I want to talk about?
I think for me, something that really stuck out, I don't know if this is too specific, but like Coco's character in particular, because like I think that she's one of the most complex characters on the show. And I don't want to delve too much into it because I don't know what you want to talk about. But I think that she...
Well, keep going. We'll follow where it's going.
Well, I think that she has a really distinct character arc. Because I think... I think that her relationship to her blackness goes hand in hand with her understanding of whiteness. And like how they kind of parallel each other. So, as her character develops... I think that it forces her to really analyze how she sees her own blackness and not how other people interpret it. So I think that she has a really interesting character arc because I don't think the other characters necessarily go through that same journey.
Is there a particular scene where you think that happened? Can you give us an example of some of that complexity so we can maybe just jump into that a little bit?
Well, I think when we get her whole backstory, and like when you see like at the beginning of when she first got to the school and she and Sam are roommates.
Right.
And I think that their relationship, like Coco and Sam's friendship, says a lot more about Coco as a person than I think it does Sam. Because I think so much of the story seems to settle in Sam's head. Like I feel like we get a lot of Sam's point of view, and I think much of the movie is the same way. So I think that it was really easy to go into the show just like hating Coco. And what I really liked is that the more you watch, that gets really challenged. Because I didn't like Coco at first, and then as the show went on, I was like, okay, I don't even know if I really like her as much as I like how much thought goes into her character and how much thought it requires you to put in about the choices she makes and why she makes them.
So we're gonna jump all over. We won't go beyond episode 7, but we'll jump all over. But did you notice that after the Reggie incident, she was the only person who was crying as they walked out? The only main character. There might have been people in the background, but Reggie was on the verge of crying,
right? And
she was still, because Coco walked out, with her boyfriend, so they were out, and of course Sam was trying to ask Reggie, was he okay? But but Coco was crying.
Yeah, I think
Am I remembering that
yeah,
correctly?
I noticed that too.
So when you talk about some of this complexity, because she's always, she's always trying to argue, like, why do we always have to bang that drum? Why do we always have to be on this tip? Why? So tell me about what you think was so complex about that moment where she believes that we can assimilate a bit and not and avoid some struggles, but yet she watched all of this with the police officer pulling a gun on Reggie, putting it in his face, really escalating the situation. And she's almost as messed up as Reggie is. And it's not because she seems to have a personal interest. I would have expected Sam or someone else to be crying, walking out. Exactly. But not the Coco character.
Had that immediate reaction.
Yeah.
That's true.
What do you think what do you think the creator, Justin's trying to convey through Coco's complexity in that scenario with her being the one crying, Lexi? Or Ali? Again, we're just talking, who knows what he really meant, but I'm just curious about what you all think about that.
I think, we watched that scene a couple of times, I think. But I think that's one of my favorite parts of Coco, because I think it's really easy to miss that. Like, if you're not paying attention, it's totally easy to just have that go over your head. And I think that just ties into her complexity, because I think Coco has layers. And I think her surface layer is just like this bougie girl who just like doesn't care and thinks that like black issues should stop at a point. But I think underneath that, she like really does care a lot about what's happening. But I think it's an extremely like hyper emotional experience for her. And I think that if you're a or just not even a hyper emotional person, but somebody who feels things really strongly, and I really think that Coco is. I think that it can be so exhausting that you try to not deal with it. And I think that a lot of what Coco does is put her energy into other things so that she doesn't have to deal with how much she feels what she does feel.
Do you know black students like that on your campus?
Oh yeah. I think in a way you have to be that way. Otherwise it's exhausting to be that frustrated all the time.
Exactly.
And to feel that out of place all the time.
I've been doing some research about how racial disparities add to the stress of African American people who are living in predominantly white spaces. There's stress to assimilate, then there's stress if you don't assimilate, because you actually experience more microaggressions if you want to wear your hair natural or want to push against certain types of systemic norms. Exactly. But either way, it erodes at your psyche. And public health centers are discovering that that's one of the reasons why African American people are leading sufferers of hypertension, dementia, diabetes, et cetera, et cetera. And so whether you're the jock, or whether you're the Lionel character who's trying to figure out his sexuality, or whether you're the dean's son, I keep forgetting that guy's name, Troy. Whether you're the dean's son or whether you're Reggie, who's down with causes, but then he's playing, Jeopardy with his white frat guy. You're still feeling the same level of stress. That's what's really interesting. I think in the broader community, they think if you just do your hair like ours, if you just cut your lawn, if you just use the King's English, if you just that there are certain groups of people, of black people, particularly I'm speaking to our case, then you won't feel the stress because some of what Coco is saying, white society says to us, just come on, just do what the police. I think who was it? Franklin Graham, Billy Graham's son, wrote an open letter to the church, or to the community, or to the world. He should have just kept that letter closed. But he basically said black parents need to just teach black kids to do what the police say and they won't get shot. And it feels that sometimes that's coming out of Coco's mouth a little bit, like, can't we all just get along? Like, you guys, can we just park the blackness? Because if we're not divisive, we'll be accepted. And then this whole thing spins out of control at this party. So for me, it just underscores the fact that this pressure is here. The environmental toxicity is really here. And I think at different times your eyes are open to realize, oh, I'm black in white space, and this is what it feels like. That's what I got out of what was going on. And there's researchers showing that stuff is actually killing us if we don't learn how to deal with it.
And I think you saying what you said about Coco echoing what a lot of white people say, I think that that really poses a question of like, is that something Coco genuinely wants, or is it something she thinks she needs to want?
That's true. I think also what you were talking about in
Great
her
question.
complexity that shows the pressure being a strong black woman, which we all know that pressure as black women.
Yeah.
And just that need to, you don't really have time to really process things because you have to keep moving. So I think in that scene that you were talking about, that shows her vulnerability, like the true essence of who she is versus, like you're saying, the mask that she has to put on for survival or that she thinks she has to put on.
Right.
You know, Alexandra, when you said that point, it made me think of a line. Do you remember, I think this was in episode 7, when Gabe and Sam went to have coffee with 2 of Gabe's friends because he said, hey, we have a coffee appointment.
Yeah.
And they were making fun of his parents being Republican New Hampshire folks. But that white character said something to Sam about the disadvantage of being, I don't know if she said the poor victim, but something like that. And Sam says, what do you mean? Like, say what?
Right.
And she said, with social media, people who've been victimized don't have time to really process. So they've got to just act on the moment. Everyone's trying to say something, tweet something. You got people, getting behind what's happening, and you don't really get a chance to process it.
Right.
Maybe, I thought about that scene when you mentioned the pressure of being a black woman and having to act under the gun and under the scrutiny of public opinion, and knowing that you're also carrying the responsibility of people thinking your actions reflect your whole race.
Right. I think that kind of goes back to the whole radio show itself that Sam hosts on campus, going back to media and feeling like that's the space that she can just have to herself uninterrupted,
right,
to speak on these issues, because she has to be on the move. Every other scene you see her doing something else. She doesn't really have that uninterrupted time to have these conversations.
That's interesting, because with those interruptions are microaggressions. And one of the things that as I'm just studying this literature and some of the research that we're putting together about the importance of black space, it's free of microaggressions, because when you don't have to justify things or explain things, or why are you saying that, she gets that space in the studio that is black space for her, because she can think out loud, say what she's saying, decompress a little bit from what she's been going through. And when we don't have that, when you go from one space to one space and you have to feel something, then justify what you feel, then argue what you feel.
Exactly.
That's the stuff that gets us sick and gets us overwhelmed. It makes us really, really angry. Let me back up a little bit. We went right to the Reggie thing with the gun. I'm going to come back to that, but that part kind of stunned me. But let me just stay on this for just a moment. Were you shocked when you found out that it was Gabe that called the police?
I literally screamed.
I never thought about who called the police. I just assumed one of the guys who owned the home did it.
Yeah, I was shocked.
I'm not being facetious. I literally screamed.
Yeah, she did.
Allie can confirm.
Yeah.
So why? Okay, so we're setting it up. If folks who are listening, you got to really watch. You got to really watch this show. And if you know Justin Simmons, you got to tell him to holler at his boy, because I'm really getting into this. But here's what's interesting. The character Gabe, who was introduced early on and thinking that Reggie was going to hit him. Remember that whole discourse, like, what, are you going to hit me? Calls the police. And it's not because he thought the white guy was going to hit Reggie. I don't think that's why he called the police.
That's deep.
So
That's
this whole
important.
thing
Good
that
point.
you're down with boning black women, and you're down, maybe because his hair is thick and curly. I don't know. But he's, and he seemed to really love her. Okay. I mean, with all I'm saying, you don't help who you love. So I get this. I'm not trying to make, but he still held that view. So why do you want to be in black space and you thinking the man's going to hit you, and then you call the police and this man gets a gun pulled in his face? So your white fragility and your fear as a man could get a brother gunned down at a party for just asking his boy, don't say the N-word.
Right.
And so I made that, what I got pissed was, that's why I didn't like him in scene 1. And I hope Gabe is listening to this show.
I literally did not like Gabe from the first time he walked onto the show. Like, I instantly disliked him. I didn't even really know why. But I think a really important point for his character is that he's extremely frustrated, not by his whiteness, but his whiteness in relationship with Sam's blackness. Like, he feels extremely insecure. He feels like he can never say anything. He feels super limited, which is so much of what black people experience all the time. And the only time he ever feels that is when he's in that black space. But I think what you said about him thinking Reggie is gonna hit this white guy, but like I don't know, like there's so many parallels of ignorance within Gabe's character.
Right.
So like in a lot of ways I was like, of course it was Gabe that called the police. Like who else would it have been? But also I felt like super betrayed because I was like, okay, at this point I was actually kind of feeling bad for him. And then like I was like, okay, maybe he's okay. And then you find this huge bomb gets dropped and you're like, no, I was right all along.
Because they bring us in a little bit because he says, hey, Reggie, I got your back. You know, I'll show up to show that it's not just a student issue.
Right.
But so he's not just white and Sam's boyfriend. He's a graduate student. So, I mean, so he's closer to being part of the faculty and the leadership. Again, a TA is not faculty. I get this.
Right.
But he's older than them.
There's
and
still like a separation.
He's going to be somebody's professor. So when did you start being afraid of black people?
Right.
And I think the part that gets me is I've grown up too much around white people who will find a black person they love or they're sleeping with, but they don't want to deal with the rest of the black people.
Yeah.
So what that means that while he's with Sam, he's really saying you're not like them. Because he's completely on edge. He's completely he's either saying, what, are you going to hit me, or I got your back, let's go march, I want to show that I'm down, I have to overcompensate for something. But he knew when he was going to the rally, he called the police.
I think there's also something to be said of when Sam hears the recording. Like, first of all, he's like, no, don't listen to it right now. Just don't listen to it. Like, forget about it. It's nothing. Like, very much.
It's 8 o'clock. People are going to start coming in.
Right.
And then she's listening to the recording, can literally hear his voice. And he's like, that could be anybody.
Like, really?
And like, I
That could be any old white guy.
And like, I get it, you know, like he's defensive, he's like whatever. But like, there's something about it so obviously being him. Like, okay, this is like a grown man, right? Like, he's a TA, and he's just like immediately lying to his girlfriend who can literally hear the fact that it's him.
Right.
Like, I feel like there's so much dishonesty in Sam and Gabe's relationship. And
then he said, I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
He lied just then and says, nah, it could be anybody. I was going to
tell you though.
So back to back. I think that also brings up the question of what is a true ally?
Come on.
Because, I mean, there's just so many layers to him. And like you said, the dynamics of being with a black woman. Does that make him feel like he has to be an ally? Or before he was with Sam, did he already want to be an ally? Like, where did that begin?
Oh, no, she didn't go there. But, okay, so let me just jump in and say this. That's the problem that a lot of black people have with interracial dating. Not that it's bad, not that you can't love somebody, because the world is changing. We're seeing more and more of it. It's the question, how down are you? And do you think because you sleeping with somebody, you automatically get a card to the Black Student Union?
Exactly.
And can you really be committed to someone when you're in their space? You feel for 10 or 15 minutes what black people feel all the time. Do you really want to hear that anger? Do you really want to feel that anger? Do you really want to be a part of that anger? And that's the question really is, sometimes people just hear you should just stay within your own race. And I don't believe that. I know friends love people. We know and love people, have family and friends who marry interracially. But the question is, do black people give white people a free spin because they've married you? Or do white people feel like they're in a club or something because they've married somebody, black or person of color, and never have to look at their stuff? Because I can't, if I had $1 for every time a white person said to me or to you know, your mother or Alexandra in her call-in show, well, I can't be racist. I'm married to a black man.
Exactly.
Well, is Gabe racist? Because I mean, he's not married, but he spoke his love, and so that's just sort of the background of what I think people really wrestle with the interracial stuff. Where does the dialogue go? Does that help the dialogue or hinder it?
Right, because that discomfort when he's in those spaces, like you said, kind of signifies that maybe he wasn't that comfortable down before he was with her.
Right.
Not that it's supposed to be comfortable right away. I mean, it's a process, but you have to constantly seek that knowledge and really want to be a part of that community and be a true ally.
Sure.
And also, in terms of when he called the police, maybe he could have asked somebody, what do you need from me? Instead of assuming. I think so many people assume what that means.
I think what you said about Gabe being super uncomfortable in black spaces, I think he also doesn't try to make himself comfortable. Like, he clearly takes issue with the fact that he feels like he can't speak in these spaces. Like, he is so used to occupying space that he doesn't know how not to, and also refuses to learn. So Gabe is like so much wants to comment or defend himself. He doesn't know how to just listen to people and like acknowledge the fact that people are suffering and that you don't have to comment on it. It's really easy to just like shut up and listen to people. And he just actively does not do that.
So switch that to real life. Why is that so hard? Why is that so hard for our white would-be allies? Because people listen to my podcast and they learn. So this is an opportunity through our honest dialogue to help people to perhaps have a paradigmic shift. Why is it? So Lexi, you're basically stating it's hard for him to just listen because he's older. So there's class. You know, just by the way they were mocking his parents and being from New Hampshire and stuff, and he's at this elite school. So there's probably a class issue. Then there's the race issue. And he's a teaching assistant. He's a grad student. These are undergrads. And so I'm sure in his head, he probably figures that someplace he should be respected or looked up to. And none of those three things matter in that black space. That could buy him a ticket anywhere on that campus, really anywhere in this country, anywhere in this world, as a white educated male who's rich and Western and American. And none of that carries weight in black space. I think that throws white allies or would-be allies in a tailspin, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think you're right. Like Lexi, you said, why can't they just listen? Why can't you just listen in this space? I know, you all have been born into you've grown up in the church, that I pastor, Fountain of Life. But I noticed that when we've started experiencing more integration and racial diversity, white parishioners or members or people who come to our church, particularly younger ones like in the early 20s, would really get frustrated. And then like after a few months, we'd have a talk. And what they would say is, I've been here 8 months. When is someone going to invite me over? Their thought was black people were going to be so proud that they stepped into black space that doors would just start swinging open. Now, they were talking about some really busy black folks who don't have me over. And these are friends that we're friends with. I mean, we got friends that we only get together with on Memorial Day or folks we only hang out with like on New Year's. But we love each other dearly. We're close friends, but we don't do stuff together all the time, but we've got a history. But the thought was they felt that there should have been such an appreciation for the fact that they put themselves out and put themselves in black space, that they actually were surprised that more fellowship opportunities weren't happening because I'm coming here and you guys aren't acknowledging it. And again, we travel in that space all the time, and we never expect an attaboy. I mean, besides us, who else is black in this space? And how many black people did you pass coming here? How many people, black people, are in your Italian major, or going to be in library science, or when I fly, how many black people are typically on with me? We just adjust to do this. But when our white allies, would-be allies and colleagues are forced to be in that space for just a small period of time, a lot of them really choke.
Yeah, I think that goes right back to him and his efforts that he sees of going to be in these spaces with them. He expects the same thing. Sure. To be clapped for and to be listened to and to be recognized, to be praised for.
Right. Definitely. Just a couple other things. The Asian American sister, I can't think of her name. But she walked up and said, "Are y'all just talking crap about everybody?" And I like the is it Joelle? Joelle, when she said, first of all, she said, I'm obsessed with you right now. Just deal with it. Like who are you? She's like, I'm your all-purpose Asian friend, and you're gonna share your weed with me. Even that character is real, because you do see situations you got some Asian brother sister who are just kind of like down.
Yeah.
Who are just like down with folks. You know, our friend Uncle Fred is like that out in Seattle. He just kind of grew up like all these black bodybuilders, and then here's this slim 6'3", Korean martial arts champion, but he's hanging out with all these like professional black athletes. So that was funny to kind of see, because that's sort of sort of stereotypical. But I just thought that was interesting, and that they were open to her. It wasn't like, Asian girl, what you doing? They're like, oh, okay, all right.
Right.
I think they appreciated that boldness, that she just kind of walked into their space,
right,
instead of talking. I won't say the name, but you like, yeah, you had a friend like that in high school. Yeah, don't say his name because he might be listening. Man, we spent a whole lot of time on Gabe, but I think that's really, really complex. I'm just trying to think, are there any other issues and things that we should hit on this?
I think we should talk about Sam.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. I have so many thoughts about Sam. Because I wish I liked her more than I actually do. Sam is also really layered, I think. Mm-hmm. And I like that about her, but she does not think about the consequences of what she does. Like, after the whole thing with Reggie, mm-hmm. she immediately is like, okay, Reggie, we need to go, like, we need to do this march. We need to go to this march. Like, we need to protest. We got to do it right now.
Right.
And, like, Reggie is clearly not up for that. Like, right. Reggie is falling apart.
Right.
And Sam is just completely unaware. And he's not, like, hiding it. Like, he's not going to class. Like, mm-hmm. Like, he's clearly...
He didn't show up to the meeting with the dean.
Exactly.
Right.
She knew, though.
Like, he's clearly not functional. Mm-hmm. And Sam is completely oblivious to that. And I feel like that happens a lot. Where it's, like, things happen and Sam is like, okay, what is the right way to respond to this? Mm-hmm. What do I need to be doing to make sure that this gets the attention that it needs to get? And that's not inherently bad. But I think when that overshadows the fact that your people you claim to really care about are seriously suffering, right. And Sam can completely just overlook that, that's like, I think that's my main issue with her.
Yeah.
That's like super, like that really rubbed me the wrong way with her character. And I feel like she does that constantly.
I remember we were talking about...
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, with talking about Sam, remember we were having the conversation about, is she really oblivious? Or does she just not have the time or just doesn't want to care about it in that moment? Does she want to just keep moving on?
Or is that how she copes?
Right, exactly.
And I think, like, it also has to be said, like, in the first episode when Gabe says, like, I would never let my friends make you feel like you didn't belong or something. Right. And Sam, like, goes on the radio and is like, I'm so sorry. And it's like, Sam, you did nothing wrong. Exactly. Like, you have nothing to be apologizing
and then she
for.
responded to a booty call.
Like, Sam, I feel like she either is apologizing for things she doesn't need to be sorry for or is, like, actively not apologizing / doing just, like, emotional support things for people she claims to care about and should be doing. Right. And I think that's what's really frustrating about her is because, like, she has, I don't even know if her intentions are good, but I think she means for them to be. Right. But she just, like, consciously does not do the right thing. And that is so irritating to witness.
But tries to do everything at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Her attraction to Gabe is complex because if she were Coco dating Gabe, we would think, okay, this is interracial dating, but she's as much black as she is white. Because am I remembering this correctly? Her character is, because she mentions by being biracial.
And she brings it up once too.
Yes, she sure does. And so it's not like she's dating out of her race. You know, again, it's not like Joelle or Coco would be doing this. So even her trying to find her own way, because both of those men reflect aspects of her culture and, you know, and who she is or what her background is. And the fact that people need room to kind of figure that out, that's not just, no pun intended, it's not just black and white. People have got to really figure that out while others are speaking into it is very interesting. But she goes from, you know, walking in Reggie's room to then telling Gabe she loves him.
Right.
I actually was expecting her to break up with him. You know, when she came in and said, I need a shower. It's been a long day. I need a shower.
Yeah.
So that part is kind of complex. I think you're right about her being layered and not really thinking about, you know, her actions, because that could be pretty dangerous. And
I want to respond to what Allie said about if Sam is actually oblivious or if she just doesn't care. And it's frustrating to not be sure because like that means either Sam genuinely doesn't care about how her actions affect other people, which is very concerning, or it means that she's willing to overlook that. Like, she's willing to just be oblivious about it and just, like... And I don't know which one of those is worse.
Right.
But I think that it makes it really hard to fully like her character. And I mean, maybe you're not supposed to fully like any of them. Maybe that's the point. But, like, I don't know. It's extremely frustrating to have this character that you want to root for. And then she keeps doing things that seem like common sense. Like, it seems
Right.
like common sense that she shouldn't have slept with Reggie when she's dating Gabe, or like
Right.
should have probably checked up on Reggie instead of immediately making a protest around all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that goes back to what you were saying about her being biracial, that a lot of her actions, now that you mention it, sort of tied to her loyalty to both sides of her, to the whiteness and to the blackness. Like, so when you said that, like, you think of
Her white side did that. Like, when she does something.
yeah,
Mhm.
like just
Her
both
white
sides,
side did.
or like her saying sorry to Gabe when she didn't need to. Like, that shows the loyalty to the white side, and then like the when she's trying to be there for Reggie or try to do the march, and like it just kind of seems to show the division.
Sure.
Because you hear a lot of biracial people talk about that. It's hard
Yes.
because a lot of people don't. It depends on who you're looking at and how they see
Right.
you or how you feel you see yourself.
There's a lot of pull there.
Yeah.
You know what's I'm gonna throw this idea out, and then I want to switch you all to one other topic before we wind up. But this dialogue is really helpful. I want you all to come back and talk about the second part or the last part of season 1 and maybe an intro to season 2. But being a young adult is complex enough in relationships and your studies. But these folks are having a lot of these racial issues, but they're at a college, so they have to still go to school. Like, I have not seen them in the classroom yet. I know they go to class, but my point is this. Black people have to deal with all the complexities of guns being pulled on you. Your friends, you win trivia with them, then they're singing the N-word. I'm gonna come back to that in just a minute. All these other things that are going on, but you got to still go to class because that's an expensive school. So your parents are paying for it, or you're taking loans out, or whatever it is. You're taking 4 or 5 years out your life. But in addition to all of that stress and pressure, those black kids had to go and write a lit paper the next day, and the white students did not see it the same way. Because, the white guy jumped off the building or fell off the building, or the guy that died. When Thane died, and thank you, I got studio helping me. But he thought he died. But I think because white people can just say he's separate, he was high, he was on something, he was drunk, he did stuff like that. That's not me. I'm not Thane. Thane is not me. If that had been a black student, was he depressed? Was she depressed? Did somebody push him? Did somebody break up with him? What was going on? Are their family on drugs? What led to it? And every black student would have been wearing black clothes in mourning, and they're still having to go to class. So the connected and communal nature of our folks, of our ancestors, is such that we are not so far removed from each other. And so even when something happened to Reggie, the Troy character was still, he said, well, I'm going too, even though it was his dad. When he would try to speak up, his son, his father, the dean, pushed him in his place. And so when trouble happens, they seem to rally around each other. And so again, I just want to stress that in addition to all of the pressures of being young and in love or in lust or whatever's going on, those folks have to still go to school. And that's a burden and a pressure that our white colleagues don't have to carry. And we talk about that in your workplace, Alexandra, Lexi. We talk about that in your years at university. And I just want to acknowledge that for the African American folks who carry that burden, and you have to be professional and on point and take care of kids and your studies and your paper. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Let me just hit on this piece. Okay, so they're at a party. Reggie and his friend are chest bumping. They win these contests. Reggie's answering questions before they even ask them. They're singing a song on the dance floor, and Reggie said, "Hey man, his friend's singing the N-word. The white guy singing the N-word." He said, "Hey man, don't say that." He's like, I just said the words of the song." He goes, "No, don't say it." We could go a whole different way. Like why do people want to sing and say songs? And that's maybe we'll get into that in part 2. But here's the thing. The friend jumped right to, "Are you calling me a racist?" And Reggie never said racist.
Right, at all. Actually, he came at him very nicely.
He just said, right.
He said, don't say that.
He could have just, backhanded it. We call it.
It would have been justified. But he came at him just, don't say that.
Because he's just, Reggie's like, "Hey man, don't say that."
Right, he was still dancing.
But he was still dancing. It was like,
right.
What the hell did you just say?
Exactly.
Reggie's over there dancing, doing the Running Man and stuff, doing the Running Man challenge and saying, "Hey man, do. Hey, don't say that, all right? Don't."
That's
like
true.
What? Oh, now I'm a racist? And he's like, "No, man, to say you're racist, just don't say the song."
All right, and he still didn't even come at him hard, even after that.
Now that part is real. That when you say what you prefer, when you say what you don't like, people get really, really, really scared. And I wonder if white people just haven't understood that there's there are worse things in life than being racist. I mean, that's not a good thing, but there's you could hurt children, you could be murdered, you could be raped, but there's a whole lot of things you can do.
Exactly.
But it feels like for some folks, some white people, that's like the death knell.
Yes.
And we're assuming, how do you swim in this water and not have racial tendencies? I swim in America. I know I have chauvinistic tendencies in me, even though I was raised by a strong mom, raised being a big brother to your mom. The world caters to me. It speaks to me as an educated person who is male. So I know that. I've got to check that when somebody brings it up. But to jump right to, am I a racist? It's the defensive. I think that part is real. And so white people want the flexibility of doing stuff and saying stuff, but not being checked on it.
Right. And can I just ask one question? Why do you want to say it so bad? Why?
That's what I want to know. Why do you just want
to know?
Just have parties? Just go in the basement. Everybody just shh. Just say it.
Right. What is the desire?
Just go in the but don't say it. But don't. If you stand on the dance floor, somebody gonna punch you in an Adam's apple, or punch
and
you.
You would deserve it.
And you deserve it. I'm saying, but if you want to say it, then just get some khakis and a torch, and and say it. But why do folks? Well, why can you? And he said, well, you can. Oh, you can say it, and I can't.
Exactly. And then you're gonna question our
Allie,
history.
ask that question again. Yeah, ask that question again. Why do you? What'd you ask?
Why do you want to say it so bad?
Why do people want to say it so bad?
It also
White people want to say it so and just piss that we can say it and
you can.
Like Alex, that's not a good word. Like you don't say it either. Like, first of all, none of your business. And
would say it.
But it's in the song. But it's said it on the text on the letter.
That's what he said. So I can't. It's in the title. So I can't sing the title. I can't say the title. So now I'm a racist.
Yeah, I think. Also, the excuses that come up about why they should be able to say it. Like, I even think about, like, in my own experience in the classroom when we're reading something that has the N-word in it and students will, like, read the full passage and will say the N-word, like, 8 times. And it'll be like, oh, but, like, we all read it. Like, we all said it in our heads. So, like, what's the harm in saying it out loud? And it's like...
Yeah, we all robbed a bank in our head, but it's a little different than when you have to go and pull off, the heist. But that response, did you all that party became very polarized? Did you notice that even though the white folks weren't saying a lot of things, I mean the two guys were talking, but folks were listening in.
Right.
Like
it started that division too on the white side and the black side. You could kind of see.
Right. I love that Reggie said, "What if I started singing songs and started talking about all of these, racial sayings for white people?" He said, "I wouldn't care," and he said, "That's the point."
Exactly.
Because society didn't judge you by that. Because you could put on a suit or comb your hair back, whatever you do, wash your face, and that's not who you are to everyone. This word was so limiting and it's used to subjugate people and so many other kinds of things, and it didn't just defile the person to whom they were speaking, but it sort of reiterated within the minds of those who are watching, the white minds of those who are partaking. Oh yeah, I'm better than, they're less than, they're dumber, they're chattel, they're not whole people. We can say this. I like that response. He's like, I wouldn't care at all.
Right.
Precisely.
Because that's so real.
Because it's so real.
A lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah, right? Because it might be easy to. It might have worked better for people had that white character said, "Well, I guess I would not like that." He just nope. I wouldn't even care.
Exactly. He thought that was the right answer.
And Reggie was ready for that answer. I think that part is really, really, really interesting. And I think that's something that the nation's wrestling with. And I think that's very interesting. That scene did not play out the way I thought it did. And again, we're sort of coming full circle. I did not expect the police to be called, and in that scenario. But I knew something was going to happen with the pushing, and the shoving. But when someone just says, "Hey, I don't like that," why can't someone just say, "Okay"?
Right. Just leave it
Whether it's, I don't want you to say that, I don't want you to sing that, I don't want you to touch my hair, I don't want you to touch my body. Why can't no just mean no to people? Why can't people just shut the hell up?
Right.
Put your hands in your pocket, apologize, and walk away. Why do you have to then turn it to down? He, again, like Gabe, he became the victim. So now I'm a racist. This is the line. Haven't I been good to you? Now that's straight out of Roots. That's Alex Haley stuff. Haven't I been good to you? That's sharecropper stuff.
Yeah.
How you going to take my crops? How you going to leave? Haven't I been good to you people? Haven't I, I've given
deep.
y'all intestines to eat and hog head cheese. Haven't I been good to y'all? I let you come in and get some cool water when you've been picking my cotton all day. I brought you to my home. Didn't I let you come in and sit in the shade while the other darkies work? Haven't I been good to you? Now that
just
language
felt
was
slimy.
brilliant.
No, I'm glad
I didn't
you
even
brought
know if
that
that
up.
went over your heads, because that's
No.
like for my generation and my mama's generation. And then they also said you people. It's like you guys or you all or something. They said, wait, that sounds pretty close to you people.
Right.
The sort of splintering and conversations that were rippling because of that was orchestrated beautifully. I mean, but haven't I been good? Haven't I been good to you? You in my house eating my food? No,
Right.
in my house at a
Drinking
party.
my
Party, got
drinking,
you cheap beer,
drinking my
music.
booze. So I bought your silence. Shut up.
Yeah,
I
that
got
felt
okay.
slimy.
Let me go on this for just a moment.
Do it.
As in my role as an influencer, I'm the nice black kid when I talk about delivering newspapers and being a Cub Scout and being the captain of my track team and on student council and on homecoming court. That part of being black in Madison works well with folks. But when I say, don't say the N-word, don't invite me to this conference, don't bring me in late, don't co-opt my saying, don't misquote me, don't bring me in at the last hour and then list my name on stuff, don't invite me to a meeting and take my picture and then put it on your website. Well, Alex, why are you so angry? Why are you so difficult? Why aren't you going to change the name? So I really related to that scenario because it feels like people are saying, haven't we been good to you? Haven't we funded you? Mm-hmm. Haven't we let your daughter into the university? Haven't we let you buy a house in Fitchburg? Mm-hmm. Don't you have an account? Don't you ride a bike on the Capital City trails? Don't you belong to the Madison Club? Don't you? Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you just say, hey, I don't like this. This is not appropriate. This is not helpful. I'm just going to go out there. I'm out here now. The white men get mad on those committees. I think I'm sitting on board sometime because I bring a community perspective, and then people start applauding themselves about attempts to diversify, not even on diversity, attempts. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there thinking, is anybody going to say, well, it's not good enough, we can do better? Because if I do, well, we're doing the best we can. And then when I push like with social service settings and it's white women in positions, then sometimes, I'm not just trying to make this just a general thing about women, just start crying. I thought we were further ahead than this, and I feel like you're calling me a racist, and I feel like you won't let us partner with you. And so either people get mad and call me the uppity N-word or say that about, and this is what a lot of white men have done in this community. Like, how dare you? I fund you. How dare you? I give you office, but how dare you? But so between the subtle passive aggressive threats and these women just crying and just saying, can't we just all get along? It's like when you just try to voice what's needed to just be whole in this space, folks act like you call them racist or something. I know I just went off. I just went too much. So I need to go to my special place, my special black space.
I think that's so important, especially in a city like Madison where you don't think
Black
those
Santa
issues
Claus,
reside.
Black Jesus, Black Osmond brothers. So I'm sorry, what were you saying, Allie?
No, I just think that's important that you brought that up, especially in a city like Madison, liberal city you wouldn't think stuff like that happens in.
You better not say what you don't like and what is wrong.
Right.
White people can say it, and they say, black people say it like there was like when they were talking, back to this party scene. Someone referenced, maybe it was a different. Yeah, I think it was that scene. Someone referenced, maybe it was a different one. It was the guy who runs Patish.
The newspaper.
Yeah. He said, she mentioned something. She says, well, how about like 200 years of slavery? Yeah, slavery. Yeah, slavery. But that was so, what's really funny is, what's refreshing about that? You almost wish white people would really say that.
Right.
Because folks who say, oh my gosh, I saw Roots 3 times. I own the 25th anniversary edition. Oh my God.
Right.
You just wish people would just say, yeah, that, and just kind of move on. But like this guy is stuck. He's immobilized because he thinks someone's calling him a racist. Like his whole evening is he's turned. Right. His whole evening is messed up. But you think 400 years of oppression is not going to bother. Right. It's not going to bother people. And that they can't talk about the systemic oppression that's a result of some of the same privilege thinking. But just that whole thing about history has nothing to do with today. Mm-hmm. History has nothing to do with today. But yet you have things like, again, Charlottesville and these white men and with tiki torches and khakis. feeling like in the last 40 or 50 years, America's been stolen from them. But black people better not talk about the last 400 years.
Right.
But white men are pissed because of strides, of women and people of color and, and the LGBT community. This whole nation's been taken from me. So 50 years has just ruined white life for them. They've taken to torches and they're singing about blood and soil. But 400 years of subjugation, 400 years of rape, and beating people and breeding sons and their mothers and taking people's names and cultures and language and worship styles and stuff like that, that has no effect. We have an equal playing field now.
Right.
Oof. Oof. This podcast is kind of like Sam's space for me. This is maybe it's having this discussion just opens up so many doors. So will you, honey, you about to say something, Lex?
I just wanted to ask you.
Oh, yeah, please ask me a question.
Who your favorite character is and why? Please don't.
Can I have a favorite male and female character? Or can I just have a favorite? Okay. Reggie is my favorite character.
Okay.
That doesn't surprise you, does it?
No.
Is that who you thought I was going to say?
Yeah.
He wasn't
wasn't
until episode 7.
I hoped that was who you were going to say.
Because that spoken word scene,
Yeah.
when he took Sam there, well, she followed him there, whatever. When he went there and he's trying to process it, the way he talked about that, the way he talked about being controlled by a bullet, I think he handled that masterfully.
Yeah.
I mean, if that was on a big screen, I think he'd be probably an Oscar contender for best supporting actor or best actor, because him sitting against that door and crying.
Yeah.
I love that.
And Sam's on the other side, because what people don't know is, I think being black and male in America does bring a bit of our male strength and swag and stamina, and folks don't know that we go on the other side of the door, and we sit there because the thought is,
right.
What if that was my wife? Could I have protected her? What if that was my son? It's not just him. I mean,
Right.
I knew what he was thinking. I knew exactly what that character was saying. How the hell did we get here? I'm brilliant. I'm sharp. I belong here. I'm cool. People like me. I'm thoughtful. I'm artistic.
Right.
And in a moment, you can be brought right back down to your place. But he's sitting on that floor thinking, is my whole damn life going to be like this?
Right.
And what do I do when I'm standing there? And that's my daughter. Because everybody else just stood still.
Right.
He would have walked in front of that gun.
Exactly.
Like, I would have done exactly what he did when the police came. But if that gun were on one of you, I would have stood in front of the gun. And so you're thinking about your persona on that side of the door, and then how do you live this out of this campus where that's just a microcosm of what you're going to face in a suit, in a tie, with alligator shoes, designer suits,
that was deep.
That was my favorite scene. That was really deep. And again, it's sort of flipped. If you had asked me this maybe early on in the season, Sam's friend Joelle. I think that's my favorite. I like the way she talked to Gabe. She kind of gave him some. I was surprised by some of the stuff she said to him, but I like how she's unapologetically. Like when she described the man she wanted, she's like black, dark, unapologetically black. I mean, she kind of just went in what she wanted. But she's also comfortable really working in some of the other spaces. And early on, I probably thought Sam, because I thought she could really speak up. I think she's got to grow up a little bit. We're gonna see if she will in season 2, and I think in her light skin, her white privilege kicks up every once in a while.
Yeah,
I thought of that too.
I mean, doesn't Coco say that to her about her light skin? Or at some point, she said something about.
But it's one thing to talk about light skin, but it's another thing to talk about ethnicity.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
she's 50% white.
Right.
And
That's true.
If her black strength and attitude shows up, why wouldn't elements of white color? I mean, I
think she knows that too.
I think she knows that.
She tried to justify it. Well, that's my 50% white.
Yeah.
So she knows.
And I probably like 2 episodes ago, it would not have not have been those folks. Although I loved Reggie's line in the beginning where he told Gabe, "I should hit you for thinking I would hit you." I liked him then, but how he maintains his strength, his character has really evolved. And so so who's your favorite character?
I also really, really like Reggie. I like Lionel too.
Yeah, I love Lionel.
I really like him.
He's interesting.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Urkel.
Yeah.
Not his character, but he just
Yeah.
he looks like Steve Urkel. Y'all don't know about that show.
We know all about
Okay, all right. So like, and Alexandra, how about you? Who are your favorite characters?
all three.
Really, you like
Reggie,
those?
Joel, and Lionel.
Now you know who else I like. They have interesting lines.
Oh, also Coco is one of mine.
And you like
Sorry.
Coco? Yeah, she's a good actress. I like you know, I've heard that there's a little controversy over Rashid's character, like if he's sort of overdoing it with the accent or something like that. I'd really like to reach out to him. I'd like to have him on. I'd like to have him on the show sometime. I don't know if you know this, but he's a Wisconsinite.
Really?
Yeah, he's from Milwaukee.
I did not know
What?
that.
Yeah, he's
I
from
didn't know.
he's from Milwaukee. But some of the lines he said, like he said, you all keep telling us what you don't like. Do you like anything? He said, I'm about to go back to Africa. That was
He was
that kind
through.
of like he was just through.
He
It's
was
like
done.
I'm down. I get it.
Right.
He said, but I know everything y'all don't like, but I don't know what you like.
Yeah.
And I think that voice from someone from the motherland
Yeah.
is speaking that sense of strength, like, okay, y'all getting caught up in this, but don't
Right.
let it destroy you.
Exactly.
Don't let it destroy. We know this is real,
Right.
but don't let it destroy you.
His character is really important.
His
The
character is
dynamic of
very.
the blackness from Africa versus the blackness here in the U.S.
Yeah.
and the division that we have against each other.
Right, like you don't
That's
see
real
you don't,
today.
Right, like seeing an African brother in that group
Yeah.
Yeah.
is actually a greater stretch than Gabe being in it or the Asian sister.
Yeah.
Right. The fact that,
That-
he's a
that-
part of that, and
that-
feels
that
welcome
he's a
and
part of that?
wants to be there.
Yeah, that one line when they were making fun of him, and it's something about your ancestors. He goes, "Yeah, I'm from the area of Africa that wasn't dumb enough to get caught and brought to America." I said, "Oh, okay, that's a sore point.
Right.
That's a sore point." But it was funny because
Yeah.
we make fun of Africa,
Right.
but you don't hear Africa making fun of us, like
like-
referring to us as
yeah.
dumb for getting caught. Like,
Right. Because that's kind
wait,
of a
that ain't
we're
funny.
Like,
We
ooh,
just
that's
stole-
point.
we-
Like, dang.
but they're like, but wait, what about what y'all said about us? Y'all called us Africa booty scratch. You know, all this kind of stuff. Getting fights on the playground.
Right.
We treat African folks bad when they come to
Exactly,
school.
and they
So
remember it.
when he zinged on them like
was
that, I
funny,
thought
though.
there are so many levels, so many layers of the genius
Yeah.
of that show. That's
Yeah.
really, really good. So listen, young ladies, please come back. Again, this is really, really interesting. I appreciate your contributions and your thoughts, and you all help me to think about the show differently. I'm happy that you have this as an artistic expression to perhaps process how you navigate the world a little better, because we had roots when I was a kid, and it told me about where we came from, but not how you really navigate today. And I think that the discussions and the characters really, really can help you avoid certain kinds of mistakes as you're finding out what it means to be brilliant and beautiful and strong and African American and female in this world today. So my guests have been Catherine Alexis Gee and Alexandra Gee Lewis, and we've just had a great discussion on seasons 1 through 7 of Dear White People. Thank you all for listening. Continue to share this episode, subscribe, tell your friends about us. We're back in season 2, Black Like Me, with Dr. Alex Gee.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. You can find out more about Dr. Alex Gee's amazing work at www.alexgee.com. Black Like Me is sponsored by the generosity of the Human Family Unity Foundation.